What's going on, guys? This is Justin Boss Nasti Silva coming back again for another great gameplay breakdown. We're coming up and doing a couple more games, or at least moving on to Game 3 here in the Losers Bracket Finals between Next Threat and Rush. Playing a little bit of some Demolition Invasion. Now, before I get started, like I normally do, is I like to really just break down the choke points, and I like to break down the points of interest, or really just the areas or whatnot that players actually have to go through to get to the other side, because it really allows people who watch my videos to understand what I talk about pretty much after I usually explain these things. So, on a map like Invasion, you actually have 4 choke points, or 3.5, so to speak. You have one choke point, which is your River Street. Now that's an area where they have to come through, obviously, to get to the other side. You have another choke point, which is your mid street, and then you have another choke point, which is your tank street, or your right street, or your B street, or whatever you like to refer to that as. That's the street that we see Impulse on right now. Now your other choke point is pretty much running from mid street or running from River, but more preferably mid street, through the courtyard, and then running through the back door of the cafe, and then running out to the front door cafe, which leads right onto your I want to say it's your C2, I want to say it's your C2 mid street, or really just on your cross 2, because usually it's a lot easier when you do your call-outs to explain the cross streets. So usually for cross streets we say C, and then usually you say C1, which is your first cross street that you start off on. C2 would be the cross street right here where A is, and C3, or excuse me, I do apologize, C1 would be your spawning street, C2 would be the street in front of cafe right here where Vengeance is, and then C3 would be your A street, or the cross street right there on A plant, and then C4 would be their spawn street. So you use these markers, and then you say things like, well, he's mid C2, so now you know that he's on mid street and he's at C2 right there in front of the double palm tree box planters right there. And or you could say something like, well, he's C4 River, so now you know that he's pretty much down by the Humvees, and you make these very simplistic call-outs, but yet they're very specific at the same time. Anyways, so moving on. So the point of the choke points is obviously, like I've said before, once again, is that you want to be able to know where these points are on a map, because it allows you to anticipate and predict where players are going to be coming from. And then after you're able to know the points where they have to come from to get to you, or to come, and try and defuse the bomb, or to try and plant, or whatever it may be, then you can start doing timing stuff. And when you start getting into the timing, you can start killing people, or not start killing people, but once you start killing people, you can then add in timing into it, where then you then calculate when someone dies, and you start anticipating when they spawn and where they're going to be coming from, depending on where you and your team are positioned on the map. It gets very technical eventually when you get to that advanced level or stage of playing. But now normally when you're playing something like Invasion Demolition, a lot of people feel that B is the harder bomb plant to get. Now, in a sense, obviously if teams go for A first or whatnot, I would definitely strongly say that out of the 2 bomb plants, B is the more difficult, just because there's more ways to get to A than there are to B. And then on top of that, B is actually closer to their spawn as far as being able to angle it, being able to throw stuns and nades, even though it is fairly simple to do that for A as well. But B is just right here. A, you have to actually run semi to the middle of the map, and overall B is just a closer distance. So it's easier to, it's faster to get there off the spawn, and it's a lot, and it's pretty much a lot easier to actually lock down, just because you really only have one way of entrance, which is right here on Tank Street. They have to, even if they come through the side cut right there, they still have to walk right in front of the tank. So really, you could lock down B with just 2 people. If you guys really knew how to work the area and you knew how to stand in position, you could lock down B with 2 people. All you have to do is have one person watch the street right here, and then the other person watch the flank behind you, or one person watch the side door. And then pretty much you're straight. Anyways, though, moving on. Now normally, since, we've been able to pretty much, justify that B is a little harder to plant on than A is, normally it would probably be pretty good or a good idea, if not a good choice, to usually go for B first. Now, the issue is that when you're going for B, just because your opponents can get there so quickly and really just attempt to set up almost before you get there, this is kind of the point of using stuns, or, well, yes, using your stuns and your nades to take advantage of this. Now, the first thing I'd really recommend is what you want to figure out. Is that you want to figure out exactly the routes that these guys have to run in order to where you are going to be able to stun them, and you're going to be able to hit them the moment that they come, or the moment that they're running on these routes to get to B. So if you're running down Tank Street, you most likely want to be throwing a stun to stun check. While you guys are running up, you want to stun check the bomb, double check no one's back there. You want to have someone hug the left side of Tank Street so they can stun the side of Chicken Coop to see if there's someone back there. You want to throw a stun in the side cut to see if there's anyone in there. And then you probably want to throw a stun all the way down on the street in between Ice Cream and Tank Street itself to see if anyone's chilling there, proning or crouching behind one of the cars. So then once you're able to throw these 3 or 4 stuns to do these stun checks, you can then follow up with a nade throw and most likely kill 1 to 2 people off the bat, which allows you to go ahead and position yourself at B, plant the bomb. But the important part is that there's 2 stages. 1 is getting there and then killing them. 2 is actually setting up to the point where you can set up quickly while you're planting the bomb. So being able to make sure that after you end up taking control of B, by effectively using your stuns and your nades, you then want to set up and make sure that you're watching the points that they can come from. Because after you plant the bomb, you don't need to be near the bomb. You don't even have to stand next to the plant. All you have to be doing is just making sure that you're not going to get flanked from side cut and you have someone watching Tank Street and back door of Ice Cream. So, and then you can pretty much be good, and then you can just constantly, just have 3 people watch it, and then just keep sending 1 guy to A, just doing a little bit of harass work. So now they have to worry about 2 things instead of 1. Anyway, so obviously these things eventually start progressing and eventually get to that point. As we're watching these guys play right now, you can just tell that, and this is what a lot of teams tend to do. They don't wait for their team to push up as a whole. They'll just go run in there all by themselves. This is completely ineffective, and it doesn't allow you to do anything. I'll give you the perfect example. If that guy would have waited right there before he went back door, or he would have thrown a stun in the back door into the entranceway right there in courtyard, and then had another guy come from river and throw a stun in courtyard, then that guy could have popped out the back door and then shot that dude, if not threw another stun to stun check where he was, throw a nade while you have the other guy coming in from river blocking the fence. So you do like a little bait and switch, you do a little decoy. But once again, we don't see these players thinking of these types of intelligent, just more smarter, better ways of playing, in order to effectively capture. Like, once again, Reppin was all there by himself.